Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 266. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you've had a good week. Got a little egg on my face. I had planned on doing today's podcast talking about the intelligence community, talking about Tulsi Gabbard, talking about her being nominated for the Director of National Intelligence. And then yesterday, there was a shakeup in the Attorney General nomination. And I'm going to scrap the Tulsi Gabbard DNI podcast for now. And we're going to get back into talking about this Matt Gaetz. He withdrawing his name from consideration for Attorney General, what happened yesterday. And I was wrong. I thought that that Matt Gaetz actually had a good chance of getting confirmed. I actually did. A lot of people were saying, no way this guy gets through. And they were right. But we're going to talk about what happened and who this new nominee is today. Let's get right into today's podcast. Take a listen.
A seismic development in the Trump transition today. Former Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz is now withdrawing his name from consideration for the role of Attorney General. In a statement, Gaetz said, quote, "While the momentum was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition." The president-elect had publicly stood by Gaetz as his pick for the role, despite growing controversy surrounding a House ethics investigation into alleged sexual misconduct by Gaetz. The president-elect responded to the news on Truth Social saying, quote, "I greatly appreciate the recent efforts of Matt Gaetz in seeking approval to be Attorney General. He was doing very well, but at the same time did not want to be a distraction for the administration."
Didn't want to be a distraction for the administration. So they keep the media, the mainstream media continues lying to people. It's like they haven't learned anything from the last election. And they are lying to people, telling people that the reason that Matt Gaetz withdrew his name has to do with this ethics report out of the House of Representatives, these accusations of statutory rape, having sex with the 17-year-old. We're going to talk about all that today. We ended the last podcast with Matt Gaetz doing the Tucker Carlson interview in 2001 after the New York Times was leaked this information about this investigation, and the New York Times was the first to make it public. Matt Gaetz goes on Tucker Carlson, and we listened to a little bit of that interview yesterday. But Donald Trump, who nominated Matt Gaetz, knew all about this, these accusations of statutory rape, the ethics report out of the House of Representatives, and he nominated him anyway. And as this, for the past 8 days since he was nominated, Donald Trump's been sticking by him with all of these reports. So Donald Trump knows what really happened with this investigation, with the DOJ investigation, which turned into the ethics investigation in the House of Representatives. He knows what's going on. And what I'm telling you, people, and I'm going to explain to you today, that the reason Matt Gaetz, the reason that he withdrew his name has nothing to do with that ethics report, has nothing to do with this closed DOJ investigation into Matt Gaetz surrounding statutory rape and having sex with this 17-year-old and transporting her across state lines. All of that is completely bogus, as I'm going to show you today. Listen to this report.
How significant is the fact that Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his name for Attorney General?
Well, I think what's significant about his withdrawal is that just a couple of days ago, you had President-elect Trump telling reporters that he stood by.
I stand by him
as his pick, that he was not going to back down.
This is what Trump was saying. This is what Trump was saying, that I stand by him. So Trump knew about these investigations. He knew about these accusations, and he continued to say, I stand by him, is what Trump was saying.
Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his name for Attorney General.
Well, I think what's significant about his withdrawal is that just a couple of days ago, you had President-elect Trump telling reporters that he stood by Matt Gaetz as his pick, that he was not going to back down from that. And now we're seeing kind of this 180 reversal with Matt Gaetz taking himself out of consideration. And this comes a day after he was here on Capitol Hill, pretty much from morning till evening.
Listen to that part. He was on Capitol Hill from morning to evening. So this is Wednesday. Yesterday was Thursday is when he withdrew his name out of consideration. But all day on Wednesday, Matt Gaetz was at Capitol Hill meeting with senators, talking with senators, and he said that things were going well with these senators that he was meeting with, and a lot of these senators were going to give him a honest chance to make his case in the hearing. This is his full statement. And he says a lot in this statement. This is his statement that he puts out when he withdrew his name. I had excellent meetings with senators yesterday. I had excellent meetings with and some of the senators who came out, like Josh Hawley, there were others who, the senator from Oklahoma, I don't remember his name, but I mean, he's at odds with Matt Gaetz, and he was even saying that we're going to give Matt Gaetz a fair hearing. We want to give him a chance to make his case. So I had an excellent meetings with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback and incredible support, and the incredible support of so many. He had all these senators saying, yeah, we're going to give you a shot. You're the president's pick. We're going to give you a shot. While the momentum was strong, with the Senate. Now, this is despite the ethics report in the House of Representatives, the accusations of statutory rape and transporting a minor across state lines, and the DOJ investigation. This is despite all of that stuff. Senators were giving him, a lot of Republican senators were giving him positive support. While the momentum was strong, it was clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition. That a lot of these senators were giving me positive feedback and telling me they were going to give me a chance, but there was a constituency in the Republican caucus in the Senate that were not going to give me a chance. It was unfairly becoming a distraction. There is no time to waste. This is a very significant part of his statement here. There is no time to waste on a needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. Thus, I will be withdrawing my name from consideration to serve as Attorney General. The Trump's DOJ must be in place and ready on day one. That's significant. He didn't want a long fight. That it was obvious that there were, even though the momentum was strong, there were a lot of senators who supported me. There were a few, and I could only lose 5. If I lose 5 or more senators, Republicans have a 54 seat majority, so he could only lose 4 senators, and that would have been a 50-50 tie because he's not going to get any votes from Democrats, and neither is Bondi, who is the new pick. She's not going to get any votes from the Democrats, so it's going to be a partisan confirmation. But you can only lose 4 Republicans. If you lose 5 Republicans, then there's no way to. So he was being unfairly treated. There was at least 5 Republicans in the caucus, even though the majority of the caucus was positive, giving him positive feedback, telling them they were going to give him a fair shot. There was a small contingent of senators, Republican senators, who were not going to give him a fair shot, and that were a no matter what. So we're going to talk about who those senators were here in just a moment. This was Matt Gaetz on Wednesday. Now, another thing that you need to understand too, on Wednesday, the ethics committee in the House of Representatives, they met to decide if they were going to release this ethics report despite the fact that Matt Gaetz had resigned from the House of Representatives. They couldn't come to a conclusion. They basically had decided that at this time, they weren't going to release the ethics report. So, on the same day that they're meeting and they say that they're not going to release the report in the House of Representatives, Matt Gaetz is on the Senate side of the Hill, and he's having meetings with the senators, and he's saying everything is happening. There's momentum. Everything looks positive. This is Matt Gaetz being questioned there as he's going from office to office. Take a listen. Everything's going great. Folks have been supportive.
Fair process, so it's a great day of momentum for the Trump Vance administration.
Great day for momentum. Everything's going great. He's feeling positive on Wednesday. So what happened on Thursday to change things? So everyone's saying that CNN is reporting that that they got a leak or information from the ethics committee in the House of Representatives that there was a new witness and new information. And we called Matt Gaetz to ask him about this new information and this new witness from the ethics committee in the House of Representatives. And Matt Gaetz says he was going to get back to us. And instead of getting back to us, the next thing we notice is that he releases this statement saying he's withdrawing his name. So CNN's saying we're putting two and two together, that the reason that Matt Gaetz withdrew his name is because we had this report that we were getting ready to come out with about another witness. Okay. Take a listen.
Let's start with CNN's Paula Reed. And Paula, you were the CNN reporter I was referring to. You had exclusive reporting on the House Ethics Committee's investigation of Gaetz. And right as you were breaking that news, Gaetz withdrew his name. Tell us about the timing of that and what you learned in your exclusive reporting.
Well, Jake, this new reporting that I did with our colleague Sarah Ferris reveals that a woman who was just 17 years old when she says that she had sex with Gaetz told the House Ethics Committee that there was a second sexual encounter with Gaetz that also involved an adult woman, so a threesome. Now, the alleged underage victim testified that this occurred at the same Florida party in 2017 where she had sex with just Gaetz on an air hockey table. Now, DOJ investigated allegations that Gaetz had sex with a minor as well as possible other crimes.
Listen to that part. Listen to that part. Listen to that part. Don't pass over that part. DOJ already did these investigations. DOJ already talked to these witnesses. Statutory rape is a crime. Transporting a minor across state lines is a crime. That's a crime. If Matt Gaetz did this, this isn't an ethics violation. This is a crime. And the DOJ, not Trump's DOJ, Biden's DOJ, actually started with Obama's DOJ, but we'll get there. Got some bombs to drop on you here, but yeah. DOJ, Biden's DOJ closed the case and said that they weren't going to charge him. So these witnesses that she's talking about from the ethics committee, that this 17-year-old said that Matt Gaetz had a threesome with with another woman while she was 17 and all this stuff. All of these witnesses that testified to the ethics committee, they also testified to the DOJ. The DOJ was investigating this, and the DOJ didn't charge Matt Gaetz with crimes, statutory rape, transporting a minor across state lines. Why would the DOJ not charge with these crimes? So she says this in this report, but she's still trying to make her viewers think that Matt Gaetz resigning and taking his name out of consideration had something to do with this report. No, it had nothing to do with this report. Matt Gaetz, Trump, nobody is worried about this ethics report and this investigation. The DOJ already investigated it. And if there was a crime and Matt Gaetz did these things, he would have been charged. It's a crime.
This new reporting that I did with our colleague Sarah Ferris reveals that a woman who was just 17 years old when she says that she had sex with Gaetz told the House Ethics Committee that there was a second sexual encounter with Gaetz that also involved an adult woman, so a threesome. Now, the alleged underage victim testified that this occurred at the same Florida party in 2017 where she had sex with just Gaetz on an air hockey table. Now, DOJ investigated allegations that Gaetz had sex with a minor, as well as possible other crimes. It did not charge him. The adult woman here has also denied that she had sex with a minor. But the reason this is so significant, Jake, is
why is it so significant? So listen to what she says, that the DOJ already investigated this, decided not to charge him. The other woman that is claimed to have been there in this threesome says that, no, this is not true. But this is why. This is what CNN does. This is why it's so significant. Why is it so significant? CNN. As well
as possible other crimes. It did not charge him. The adult woman here has also denied that she had sex with a minor. But the reason this is so significant, Jake, is because this is an example of the kind of evidence that the House Ethics Committee has gathered that is not yet public. Just the other day.
This is why it's so significant, because this is the kind of example of the evidence that is in this report that the House of Representatives has decided that they're not going to release. Yeah, this is the same evidence that was in the DOJ investigation that decided not to charge him. It's not significant at all. Matt Gaetz this morning was on with Charlie Kirk, and I want you to listen to Matt Gaetz in his own words.
To go into that. But first, I just want to address some of the speculation. So, some people say it was, the House ethics report. Some people say that there were 5 immovable senators.
He starts laughing.
I just want to briefly touch on this.
He starts laughing right away.
As soon as I want to build that out.
As soon as Charlie Kirk brings up the ethics report, you see this smile on Matt Gaetz's face. He starts laughing. He wasn't worried about this ethics report.
To go into that. But first, I just want to address some of the speculation. So, some people say it was, the House ethics report. Some people say that there were 5 immovable senators. I just want to briefly touch on this, Matt, because there was so much media nonsense around it.
There were up to 10 unmovable senators. That's what it comes down to. It had nothing to do with the ethics report or these charges of 17-year-old sex and transporting a minor. What it had to do was up to 10 rhino old guard Republicans that are being led by Mitch McConnell that were no's no matter what. That's what it had to do with. It had nothing to do with these allegations in this ethics report.
To go into that. But first, I just want to address some of the speculation. So, some people say it was, the House ethics report. Some people say that there were 5 immovable senators. I just want to briefly touch on this, Matt, because there was so much media nonsense around it and lies about you and your character. And I was out there defending every single day. I just want you to have an opportunity to address that once and for all. We can kind of put this to rest. Matt, what happened here?
Yeah, there is a play that is run in Washington when they're trying to smear somebody. And, they go and dredge up false, years-old allegations of the most salacious and clickbait-y flavor possible. And in this case, those allegations were coming from sources that Merrick Garland's DOJ had already deemed not credible. Like, if the things that the House ethics report were true, I would be under indictment and probably in a prison cell. But of course they're false, because when you test them against other records, when you test them against other testimony, it all falls apart very quickly. But I was dealing with a politically motivated body. They didn't like me because of what I did to Kevin McCarthy. All of them were.
That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. It had nothing to do with these allegations. That what Matt Gaetz is saying is 100% true. If he did what these allegations, these salacious allegations that CNN, MSNBC, all the mainstream media, the legacy media that nobody listens to, if what they were saying that Matt Gaetz did is, as far as having sex with the 17-year-old, which is a crime, transporting a 17-year-old across state lines, which is a crime, paying for sex, which is a crime. There was evidence that this guy did this. Merrick Garland's DOJ would have indicted him. The fact that they didn't indict him proves that he didn't do it. And nothing in this ethics report from the House of Representatives is going to change that. It's the same witnesses. The ethics committee, who don't like Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is hated. When he was in the House of Representatives, he was hated by the old guard Republicans, the Republicans. He was hated by everybody. He was hated by most of his colleagues in the Republican Party, and he was hated by all of the Democrats So the ethics committee hates him. People on the ethics committee, they don't like this guy. And we're going to talk about that here more in a minute. But there's nothing in that ethics report that, the DOJ didn't see. DOJ tells Matt Gaetz they won't be charged with the sex trafficking probe, his lawyers say. No prosecution. Prosecutors had spent months. Let me read this, subtitle here. Prosecutors had spent months investigating allegations that Gaetz was part of a scheme that led to the sex trafficking of a 17-year-old girl. Prosecutors spent months investigating. They talked to the same witnesses that the House Ethics Committee talked to. They got the same stories that the Ethics Committee got. They vetted it and they decided not to bring charges. So it had nothing to do with that. So in the last podcast, this article, people, I don't have time to read all of this article to you, but this article is so good and it breaks down everything that happened with Matt Gaetz and these allegations that led to the DOJ investigations and that led to the ethics committee investigation. And we played the clip in the last podcast of Matt Gaetz on Tucker Carlson the night that the New York Times released the story about this investigation, which was leaked to them to discredit this guy. And he says that he's being extorted, that his father was asked to wear a wire, and that his father was approached, and they were trying to extort money from him. Gaetz's father is a Florida politician, and they were trying to extort money from Gaetz's father so Joe Biden could give Matt Gaetz a presidential pardon for these crimes that he didn't commit. And this article goes into everything. So the name of the website is Uncovered DC, uncovereddc.com. And the article, Matt Gaetz, What Actually Happened. And boy, this story this story and this article is so well sourced. Everything that they talk about in this article either has a link or a picture from a court filing, an affidavit. I mean, just full of, look at this. This is a picture of Roger Stone, this guy Greenberg, because this guy Greenberg is the one who started all this stuff, and Greenberg and Matt Gaetz became friends, is what this story says. And let me just read you a little bit of this stuff. Greenberg, your classic rich kid who drinks through life, lighting fires that everyone else is forced to put out. He never lands hard because daddy's money always catches his fall. You know the type. We all do. Joel approached his role as tax collector. So he was a tax collector in Florida, no differently than any other. By fall 2019, Seminole County was awash with rumors about the federal investigations into Greenberg's crypto scam with tax collector dollars. These rumors inspired a local music teacher, Brian Boot, to throw his hat in the ring and challenge Greenberg in the Republican primary slated for the following year. Despite many advantages Greenberg held over Brute in the race, incumbency, wealth, name recognition, etc., Greenberg's significant criminal activity as a tax collector likely contribute to his obsession with destroying Boot publicly and privately. So throughout late 2019 and into 2020, Greenberg rolled out a series of ever-escalating smear tactics targeting Boot. They started rather typical labeling Boot, who is from Michigan, as a carpetbagger, but they grew increasingly vicious. He created a fake Facebook profile pretending to be Boot's student, leaving comments on. I mean, this guy is crazy. So we're talking about this Josh Greenberg guy. It's a real piece of work. Let me get down here and start talking about the 17-year-old. Let me just read it. All right, you guys are going to have to go and read this whole article. I don't have time to read the whole article. All right, Greenberg's antics finally reached the apex when he mailed handwritten letters to the administration of the school where Boot taught, accusing him of sexually assaulting his student. Greenberg probably didn't expect those letters to be taken so seriously, or he likely would have been a little bit more careful. But alas, he was not. And when the letters were turned over to local sheriff's office, both his fingerprints and DNA were lifted from them, and he was arrested on June 2020 and charged by the DOJ with stalking. This is Greenberg being charged with the DOJ, and he's got multiple arrests. Okay. So Greenberg's phone was confiscated and searched at the time of his arrest. Believe it or not, this is where the real legal troubles began. Cause they arrest him for sending this letter to Boot, and then they take his phone, start going through his phone. On his cell phone and later home computers, police found evidence of Greenberg's committing damn near every crime in the book. So he had one of those Hunter Biden top of laptop and phone. So they search his phone, and later his home and laptop computer show him committing every crime in the book: embezzlement, drugs, prostitution, identity theft, wire fraud. I mean, these are the crimes that they're accusing Matt Gaetz of. And this guy Greenberg is the one who is committing all this crime and had all this evidence on his phone and computer of committing all this crime: embezzlement, drugs, prostitution, identity theft, wire fraud, crypto market manipulation. But the silver tuna was a series of messages that occurred in the late spring through early fall of 2017, where Greenberg had a then 17-year-old girl discussing, among other things, their many sexcapades around Florida and beyond. So Greenberg was the one having sex with the 17-year-old. Greenberg was the one that was taking 17-year-olds across state lines. Further investigations reveal that from December 2016 through 2018, Greenberg was a customer of a sugar daddy website where he solicited various women for sexual and escort services. This is where he met the aforementioned 17-year-old girl. So he met the 17-year-old girl on the sugar daddy website. So this guy Greenberg has all kinds of legal troubles. And then he goes to jail. And then after he gets out of jail, he's there in Florida. He's a wealthy guy in Florida, rich kid. Matt Gaetz is a rich kid. They become friends and acquaintances. And then so, I mean, this whole story is so elaborate. Goes back to the Obama administration, goes back to Andy McCabe, and the Obama DOJ. The $25 million that they're trying to extort from Matt Gaetz's father is to use to get a prisoner, American prisoner that they think is still in Iran, and they're going to use it for a rescue operation is what this $20 million is for. I mean, this is an elaborate story. I recommend reading this entire article, but this is what Matt Gaetz was saying in the interview that we listened to at the end of the podcast yesterday that he was, on Monday when he had done the interview with Tucker Carlson, he says that someone was trying to extort my father for $25 million. And the FBI in Florida got my father to wear a wire, and he was demanding that these tapes be released because these tapes were going to prove his innocence. And everything in this article, like I said, is well sourced. I mean, it shows that Matt Gaetz, everything that Matt Gaetz says in that interview was right. Actually, that Tucker Carlson interview is referenced here. And I want to read that part. It involved $25 million extortion threat against his father to help free an American hostage in Iran that would then be paid back with a presidential pardon for Matt Gaetz. So that was the deal. That they made up these lies about Matt Gaetz with the 17-year-old and all this stuff, and the DOJ was already investigating it based on claims that Greenberg had made, and then so they take this deal to Matt Gaetz' father and says that Joe Biden will give Matt Gaetz a pardon if you pay us $25 million. This is a crazy story. Gaetz demanded that the FBI release the tapes. Okay, hold on. To pay back for it with the presidential pardon. Gaetz demanded. This is on the Tucker Carlson, so he's already going into the Tucker Carlson interview. On the Tucker Carlson interview, Gaetz demanded that FBI release the tapes that they had in their possession with the recordings from his father's wearing a wire and the sting operations. Of the recordings made by his father in interviews with the extortionist. He didn't hesitate to name the alleged extortionist, David McGee. Matt Gaetz said that he was a former prosecutor for the Northern District of Florida and now works for prestigious Briggs and Lane law firm in Pensacola. He was so resolute, talking about Matt Gaetz in the Tucker Carlson interview that we watched a little bit of in the last podcast. He was so resolute in that interview and afraid and unafraid when talking, yet he sounded like an absolute lunatic. This is the author saying that in that interview with Tucker Carlson, this is in that interview that Matt Gaetz that we watched a little bit of in the last podcast. That interview was the night of the New York Times leaking this or writing the story about this investigation that was leaked to them. So this is the first time that it becomes public in the New York Times. And that night, Tucker Carlson has a Matt Gaetz on. So the author of this article says he was resolute, unafraid when talking, yet sounded like an absolute lunatic. I know. I was watching live and wasn't the only one. Tucker was highly annoyed and unconvinced by the end of the interview. Yet 3.5 years later, I know everything Matt Gaetz, I know everything he was saying in that interview was true. Everything that Matt Gaetz was saying in the Tucker Carlson interview was true. Of course, he was, frantic and shaken by that New York Times story. Florida man, 62 years old, pleads guilty to trying to extort $25 million from Representative Matt Gaetz' father in exchange for a presidential pardon for sex trafficking allegations. Someone pled guilty to this. Stephen Alford, 62, of Florida, was found guilty on Tuesday of wire fraud. Alford is alleged to have attempted to extort $25 million from Matt Gaetz. This is Daily Mail. You can find this article as well. This is Daily Mail. Florida man, 62, pleads guilty to trying to extort Matt Gaetz $25 million from Representative Gaetz' father. Don Gaetz, former Florida statewide lawmaker, wore a wire, just like Matt Gaetz says, for FBI investigation. Feds allege Don Gaetz was promised presidential pardon for his son. So this whole story about the 17-year-old and the ethics investigation in the House of Representatives, all that stuff is bogus. All that stuff is bogus. Matt Gaetz withdrawing his name from consideration for Attorney General had nothing to do with these allegations, had nothing to do with that ethics report in the House of Representatives, had nothing to do with any of that. It was all a smear. It was a smear from the beginning. And there's so much evidence that it was a smear. So much evidence. I don't know why the news is not telling you about this extortion case, and why isn't CNN talking about Matt Gaetz' father being wearing a wire and they trying to extort $25 million? Because if you read this story, you'll understand why the news isn't talking about it. If you read Uncovered DC, you'll understand why the news isn't talking about it, because this implicates the DOJ. This implicates Andy McCabe, who was fired from the FBI because of the Russiagate investigation into Trump, and then now he's a commentator on all of their networks for CNN, MSNBC, discredited. I mean, it's got Obama administration stuff. I mean, there's a reason why the news isn't telling you all of this story. But there's another reason why Matt Gaetz was not, why Matt Gaetz could not get confirmed, and why he ended up having to withdraw his name. And it had nothing to do with this, but it has more to do with the fact that these 10 hardline, or these 10 McConnell senators that are loyal to McConnell, these old guard Republicans, were a no matter what. And why were they a no matter what? Did it have anything to do with these allegations of Matt Gaetz for statutory rape and the ethics? No, these 10 old guard Republicans, Mitch McConnell, these 10 old guard Republicans, these Mitch McConnell Republicans, the reason that they were no's no matter what is because they just don't like Matt Gaetz. They don't like MAGA Republicans. Mitch McConnell doesn't like Donald Trump. Mitch McConnell actually hates Donald Trump. And just like in the House of Representatives, you have the Freedom Caucus against the rest of the Republican caucus. There's basically two wings of the Republican caucus in the Senate. There's about 20 or so MAGA type of senators that are more populist MAGA type of senators, and then there's these old guard, neocon McConnell senators. So there's this battle going on, and for Trump to pick J.D. Vance as his running mate was a huge shot across the bow to these old guard neocon Republicans, because they don't like J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, when he was in the Senate, he was more aligned with these more populist MAGA Republican senators. J.D. Vance voted against Ukraine funding. He was against all the wars. McConnell and these other neocon senators, they take all the money from the defense contractors. They're all about the wars. They're all about working with Democrats to get bipartisan, screw the American people bills across. So there's this establishment and anti-establishment fervor, just like there is in the House of Representatives, there also is in the Senate. And that is why, that's the only reason why Matt Gaetz had to withdraw his name, and why he couldn't get the votes, because there were about 10 senators, Republican senators, that said that doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter what you say in these hearings, that we're a no matter what. Matt Gaetz will not be Attorney General. And the reason they don't like Matt Gaetz is because Matt Gaetz is a firebrand. Don't have nothing to do with sexual misconduct allegations and ethics violations, and the 17 years old. The reason that they don't like Matt Gaetz is because Matt Gaetz is a firebrand. The definition of firebrand, not the first definition here, but the second one who creates unrest or strife, as in aggressively promoting a cause, an agitator. That's why. That's why these 10 Republican senators don't like Matt Gaetz. That's why they don't want Matt Gaetz in to be the attorney general. And that's why members of the House, his own colleagues in the House, don't like Matt Gaetz, because Matt Gaetz is a firebrand, one who creates unrest and strife. I love Matt Gaetz for that. This is what we need. We need people in Congress to create unrest and strife, as in aggressively promoting a cause. Matt Gaetz dropping out of contention for Attorney General had nothing more to do than he's a firebrand, and these neocon old guard Republicans, they do not want a firebrand. And that a firebrand is exactly why Trump nominated him, because that's who Trump wants. Trump wants a firebrand. Trump wants a firebrand in all of these positions. But to show you that I'm right, let's make my case.
One of the things we learned about Matt Gaetz yesterday on the Hill was that while he came away from those meetings feeling optimistic, just in the sense that these senators were not flat out telling him no, we also were told that Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz learned that there were several hard no's, maybe even up to 10 hard no's. And
10 hard no's, that he was getting positive feedback from the majority of the Republican caucus in the Senate that were telling him, yes, we're going to give you a fair shot. We want to hear what you have to say. We're not going to make our decision until we've had a hearing. But there were 10 hard no's that say, don't even come and have a hearing. We don't want to hear anything you have to say. We're hard no. And there's nothing you can do to change us from being no. And these were and so this is what I don't understand. And this gets us back to Matt Gaetz' statement here. And what he says here, he says, there's no time to waste on needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. Thus, I will be withdrawing my name from consideration as Attorney General. Trump's DOJ must be ready on day one. And what he's saying here is that this was going to be a long process. And these guys had already told me no, because I was wondering, why not, even though they're telling you that no, and that there's nothing that I'm going to be able to say to change that, make them vote. I would have gone through and done the hearing anyway. I would have made my case and used the hearing to further make my case against the establishment. I would have made them vote so the American people can see these senators putting their name behind it. And that's something that they didn't want. I'm going to show you that here in a moment. That's what the senators didn't want to have to vote on this. They didn't want to have to expose themselves to the American people. And for Matt Gaetz to withdraw his name and not going through the hearings and making them vote, he did them a big favor. But that the reason that Matt Gaetz withdrew his name, and the reason he didn't go through the process, even though he knew that there was more than 5 senators that were a hard no, is because of the timing issue, is what he says here. He says that, there's no time to waste, that the DOJ needs to be in place on day one. There's no time to waste. I'm withdrawing my name because it's a no already, and I already know that it's a no. So there's no need to prolong the process. That we need a attorney general that can get confirmed immediately. But they didn't want to vote. Did you listen to this? This is CNN and what's his name, Manu Raji. He's saying what I just told you.
Manu, you're getting a reaction from lawmakers on Capitol Hill. Is it more of a sigh of relief? Is it disappointment? Is it anger? What are you hearing?
Yeah, it's definitely a relief, Jake.
Definitely. It's definitely a relief. They're definitely relieved that they don't have to vote on this and show the American people, or at least the Republicans and MAGA Americans, who they are. They definitely don't want to show their hand. They're definitely relieved that they don't have to vote on this.
Manu, you're getting reaction from lawmakers on Capitol Hill. Is it more of a sigh of relief? Is it disappointment? Is it anger? What are you hearing?
Yeah, it's definitely relief, Jake. There was dread among Republican senators about having to cast a vote, really making a
dread. There was dread. Listen to him. Listen to what he's saying. It's a relief that Matt Gaetz did us a favor and withdrew his name, because there was dread among these senators of having to vote no on Matt Gaetz. And then the American people seeing who they are, they're putting their name behind it, because Matt Gaetz, he's not popular on Capitol Hill because he's a firebrand. They don't like firebrands on Capitol Hill, but you know who does like firebrands? The American people. The American people like firebrands. Donald Trump likes fire. That's why the American people just elected Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is a firebrand. So the American people like firebrands. So these senators were dreading having to vote against the firebrand because the American people would see who these senators are. It's like not like we already know who they are. We already know who they are. And people, I was thinking about this. We got to get rid of these people. There's all this talk about draining the swamp, and is Trump going to go into office and drain the swamp? Trump can only drain the bureaucracy. That's the only the swamp that he has the power to drain, is the bureaucracy. The swamp that's in Congress, that's on us. We have to drain that swamp. We have to get those people out of Congress. Okay? Donald Trump doesn't have any power to drain the swamp in Congress. That is on us. We have to get rid of these people. So we already know who these people are, but they were dreading putting their name behind this vote. And they're relieved that Matt Gaetz did them a favor.
A sigh of relief? Is it disappointment? Is it anger? What are you hearing?
Yeah, it's definitely relief, Jake. There was dread among Republican senators about having to cast a vote, really making a choice between someone they believe, a lot of them believe, were simply not qualified to be the Attorney General of the United States, or voting against it and enduring the wrath of Donald Trump and all of his allies. And many of them simply did not want to go down that road. Not just
enduring the wrath of Donald Trump and all of his allies, enduring the wrath. So they were relieved that they didn't have to vote and show their hand and endure the wrath of the American people. There will be no recess appointments. Controversy over deleted post by New Yorker journalist. And what was this post? This was a post that caused a lot of controversy. I guess it was last weekend on Monday. Alert, McConnell, something sketchy is going on. This news of McConnell telling Trump no resource appointments has been deleted. So this is the actual. Let's see here. Oh, message. This is the New Yorker journalist, and the post has since been deleted. Message to Trump team: there will be no recess appointments, Senator McConnell said tonight in Washington gathering. So that either happened or it didn't happen. Did McConnell say at this Washington gathering that there will be no recess appointments? I mean, so this is all McConnell leading this, and McConnell doesn't like Trump. McConnell doesn't like MAGA. McConnell is an old school a neocon Republican. We got to get him and all of his cohorts out. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, John Cornyn. We know who these people are. We got to get rid of them. This is why Matt Gaetz withdrew his name, is because of McConnell. Once you listen to what this woman, what's her name? Kate, I forget her name, but the girl from The View that was in the Trump first term.
And if Matt Gaetz does end up going forward to a confirmation hearing, he's going to have to sit down and convince senators. And just a quick recap of things he said about Republicans who he will need: Susan Collins, voters should reject her, and Lisa Murkowski. Mark Wayne Mullen is a fool.
So this is what he said. So we know who these people are. Matt Gaetz these are statements that he's made about these senators that were the 10 hard nose. We already know it was Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. It was Susan Collins of Maine. It was Mitch McConnell, John Cornyn of Texas. We know who these people are. And these are things because Matt Gaetz is a firebrand and he's anti-establishment. He's a right-wing populist. And he's against, all of these establishment Republicans selling us out, running up our debt. So these are the things that Matt Gaetz has said about these senators in the past. And they got a grudge. They don't want a firebrand.
Senators. And just a quick recap of things he said about Republicans who he will need. Susan Collins. Voters should reject her and Lisa Murkowski. Mark Wayne Mullen is a fool. Mitch McConnell is in shambles. Tom Tillis is trying to get another blank check for a corrupt country. John Cornyn, there are better Johns than John Cornyn. I mean, these are people he takes his time rather than to legislate or deliver for his district. He's going after his own colleagues. I'd argue he's gone harder after Republicans than he ever has Democrats. I'm not entirely convinced he's going to get confirmed, though, because
I would argue that he has gone harder on Republicans than Democrats, is what she says. I would argue Alyssa Farah is her name. She was an advisor to Mike Pence in Trump's first administration. Alyssa Farah says that she would argue that Matt Gaetz has gone harder on his colleagues, which are not his colleagues, but harder on Republicans than he has on Democrats in his critiques. Take a listen.
He's going after his own colleagues. I'd argue he's gone harder after Republicans than he ever has Democrats. I'm not entirely convinced he's going to get confirmed, though, because other than Donald Trump, I don't know anyone who likes Matt Gaetz.
Nobody likes him. Nobody likes him on Capitol Hill. That's the essence of what went down. That he's not liked on Capitol Hill because he is a firebrand. And because he tries to demand that the government is accountable to people. And the people like him. The people like Matt Gaetz. I'm going to show you that here in a moment. Matt Gaetz don't have a problem with the people. But on Capitol Hill, where he's a firebrand, he has a problem. They don't like him. Take a listen.
Lulu, to the point that David just made, though, right? Trump could have gone, and there are, many who had said, oh, he'll just go and do a recess appointment or he'd do whatever. He didn't do that in this case. It's not to say that he won't do it in something else, right? I mean, just in this one particular instant in time, Lulu, does that show some sort of a check on his power, that the Senate was able to essentially call the shots on this one?
I mean, it was just a small group of senators, and that is...
It was just a small group of senators. Just a small group of McConnell senators is who we're talking about here.
His power, that the Senate was able to essentially call the shots on this one.
I mean, it was just a small group of senators, and that is, the system held. That's how the system is designed to function, that the Senate does have the advise and consent role. And so, yes, it held. But I don't think we should extrapolate much on this. Yeah. The fact is that Matt Gaetz was just very unpopular amongst his colleagues. I mean, leaving aside what was in the report, people didn't like him there. And that goes a long way in that environment.
It had nothing to do with the report. They just didn't like him. They don't like a firebrand. His colleagues, the Republicans in the Senate, do not like him. They don't like him. Why don't they like him?
All right. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Why don't they like him? Why don't they like him? Here, I got a clip to show. And let's go back to Manu. Why don't they like him, Manu? Why don't they like him?
Donald Trump and all of his allies, and many of them simply did not want to go down that road, not just on the allegations of the House Ethics Report, but also Matt Gaetz' slash and burn politics, his battles with Republicans over the years, his effort to push out Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House last year, something that enraged many Republicans, including on the Senate side of the
Capitol. Him pushing out Kevin McCarthy in the House of Representatives, that angered Republicans, and I told you in the last podcast that angered a lot of Republicans, his colleagues in the House of Representatives that wanted, to go along, get along. They were working with Democrats to raise the debt ceiling for 2 years, increase the debt. And Matt Gaetz initiated the recall of Kevin McCarthy that not only angered Republicans in the House of Representatives, that also angered these McConnell Republicans in the Senate because Matt Gaetz had initiated the vote to vacate Kevin McCarthy. He was a firebrand. They do not like him because he's a firebrand. It had nothing to do with that. Let's listen to Manu say this again.
What are you hearing?
Yeah, it's definitely a relief, Jake. There was a dread among Republican senators about having to cast a vote, really making a choice between someone they believe, a lot of them believe, was simply not qualified to be the Attorney General of the United States, or voting against it and enduring the wrath of Donald Trump and all of his allies. And many of them simply did not want to go down that road, not just on the allegations of the House Ethics Report, but also Matt Gaetz' slash and burn politics, his battles with Republicans over the years, his effort to push out Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House last year, something that enraged many Republicans, including on the Senate side of the Capitol, which really made many reach the conclusion that he really had no path to be confirmed.
Because he initiated, so Kevin McCarthy, when they vacated his seat, it angered the McConnell Republicans in the Senate. It angered Republicans, neocon, old guard Republicans in the House of Representatives. We got to get rid of these people. We got to get rid of these people because, again, Matt Gaetz is a firebrand on Capitol Hill. That's what the people love. That's what we love. The people don't have a problem with Matt Gaetz. It was hilarious when they ran into each other, Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy, at the convention a few months ago. And Matt Gaetz was joking with Kevin McCarthy. And I wish I had that clip prepped, but Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy were I think Kevin McCarthy was doing an interview, and then Matt Gaetz comes up and interrupts him. He says, "You're going to be speaking, Kevin McCarthy? What time's your speaking engagement? And, or your speaking, assignment? When are you going to be speaking, McCarthy?" He was just joking with him. And then Matt Gaetz says, "If you got up there to speak, you would get booed off the stage," is what Matt Gaetz says to McCarthy. And he's absolutely right. If McCarthy would have got on the stage and spoke to the delegates at the convention, he would have gotten booed off the stage. Matt Gaetz wasn't booed off the stage. Matt Gaetz, when he did speak, he was applauded because the people like Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is not liked on Capitol Hill because he's a firebrand. The old guard Republicans, the go along, get along Republicans do not like Matt Gaetz, and him having to withdraw his name had nothing to do with that. But I want you to listen to this reporter talk about how the people feel about Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, and I would just briefly note to your point, I mean, I think, there's certainly different perceptions of Matt Gaetz, both inside of this body, but outside in MAGA world, if you will. I certainly saw Matt Gaetz a number of times on the campaign trail with President-elect, or then former President Trump. And, he was received very well by a lot of Trump supporters, people stopping him for photographs, autographs, and the like. So
the people like him.
Have some support and popularity.
So the people like him. You don't have no problem with the people. The people like a firebrand. It's those clowns on Capitol Hill that don't like a firebrand. When the people see Matt Gaetz, they want his autograph, they want his picture, they like him because the people, the MAGA people, like a firebrand. It's the people on Capitol Hill who don't. And that's why Matt Gaetz had to withdraw his name. So the new nominee is Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi was Trump's impeachment trial lawyer in his first impeachment. She was also the attorney general in Florida. Again, all these people are coming from Florida. There's so many nominees from Florida. There's a lot going on with Florida. It's going to be interesting to see who Ron DeSantis appoints to Marco Rubio's Senate seat, because honestly, at first I didn't like the pick of Marco Rubio going into the State Department. Marco Rubio is a hawk. He's a hawk. I don't like Marco Rubio, and I didn't like the pick and putting him in charge of state. But then I started thinking about it. This is a brilliant move, because Marco Rubio is kind of wishy-washy in the Senate. Sometimes he would be with McConnell and on the McConnell side, and sometimes he would be on the Patriot side, the populist side, and against McConnell. You never knew what you were going to get with Rubio in the Senate, and I don't particularly trust him. But now Ron DeSantis gets to appoint another anti-McConnell senator that is a hardcore anti-McConnell senator in the Senate, and that is more of a new type of populist MAGA Republican, and he can have a firm vote, and Trump would have a firm vote for his agenda with this new pick, and replace Rubio. And then if Rubio doesn't work out at state, Trump can just fire him. And Rubio's gone. So I actually like the pick. And so all these Florida people, Trump's chief of staff, his attorney general pick now, his State Department pick, all these people coming from Florida, and Bondi is no different. She was the attorney general there. Now, she does have some controversy. Bondi does. And at first, my very first instinct and gut feeling was when Trump nominated Matt Gaetz, that he nominated Matt Gaetz, thinking that if I can get him across, if we can get Matt Gaetz confirmed, then great. But if we can't, then he will soften, because he's such a firebrand, he will soften the blow of another pick. He probably could have had Bondi in mind when he was thinking of this. And the controversies that she has will seem minor in comparison to Matt Gaetz. I want you to listen to this. Is some Manu again talking about that.
Senators will look at this nomination more favorably, undoubtedly, than the Matt Gaetz nomination. Gaetz came in.
So they're going to look, these senators are going to look at her more favorably, and particularly these McConnell senators that were hard no on Gaetz. So the theory is, the people that were saying this was 4D chess to put up Gaetz, is that Gaetz was such a controversial candidate that immediately putting up Bondi after having put up Gaetz would make her more appealing, which is what Manu is saying here, and and maybe that they can get her across if they would have put her up first, her controversies would have been more highlighted than they are in the wake of Matt Gaetz. And so now this is what he's saying, is that they'll feel more comfortable with her.
Nomination more favorably, undoubtedly, than the Matt Gaetz nomination. Gaetz came in with heavy baggage. A lot of senators knew Matt Gaetz for the way that he conducted himself on the House side for many years, the way he battled with his colleagues. Of course, those ethics allegations, those investigation that was going on about sexual misconduct and the like, and they wanted nothing to do with Matt Gaetz. They'll look at Pam Bondi much differently, with a fresh set of eyes, someone that they will have to assess. Now, that doesn't mean that she definitely will be confirmed, even though her chances are much higher than Matt Gaetz is right off the bat.
So right off the bat, her chances are much higher than Matt Gaetz. So people are theorizing that that's why Trump put up Gaetz first, and that if Gaetz ended up having to drop out, his controversies would overshadow Pam Bondi. And the controversies around Pam Bondi, this is one of them. I want you to take a listen, because you're going to hear a lot about this in her in her confirmation hearings about this payment from Trump for $25,000 when she was the AG of Florida. Take a listen.
Because you talk about her what this looks like. You mentioned her role in filing those election-related lawsuits in 2020. She also previously has been a registered lobbyist for Qatar. There was the time when she faced the scrutiny over the $25,000, the campaign contribution she got from Trump at the same time her office was considering signing on to other litigation investigations into Trump University. Are those questions that you would expect to come up at her confirmation hearing?
Oh, absolutely. That is all fair game. If you're going to go put yourself up for Attorney General, you have to assume everything you've done is going to be fair game for questioning. And I think that latter thing that you mentioned, Caitlin, is going to be a big deal. What happened was Donald Trump's charitable foundation made a $25,000 donation to Pam Bondi's super PAC. At the time, Pam Bondi, which is Attorney General of Florida, was considering joining a lawsuit against Donald Trump for his university, quote unquote university. Now, ultimately, the state of New York brought that lawsuit, but Pam Bondi decided not to bring it. And when that transaction came under scrutiny, originally the party said, whoops, it was a mistake. We actually didn't mean to donate it to Pam Bondi. We meant to give it to some other entity, some other nonprofit in Kansas. Ultimately, though, that was disproven. That was proven to not be the case. That got them into some trouble with the IRS. They had to give the donation back. So that's exactly the kind of thing that I think is fair play here. And Caitlin, it's important to know, we are now looking at a possible situation where the top 4 officials at the Justice Department, and that could be Pam Bondi, could be Todd Blanche, who's nominated for Deputy AG, could be John Sauer, who's up for Solicitor General, and it could be Emil Bove, have all represented Donald Trump in some personal capacity. And it's important.
So those are the controversies that you're going to hear about. These 3 controversies in confirming Pam Bondi: the fact that she was Trump's lawyer and that she election denial. That she was an election denier. That's the one. The other is this $25,000 payment. And then the other accusation is that she's too loyal to Trump because she was his personal attorney. And like he just said, Todd Blanche, who has been nominated as Trump's deputy attorney general, was also his personal lawyer. I mean, these are his blindside tackles. Going back to the last podcast, he wants people that he trusts and people that are loyal to him. That's what he's looking for more than anything. I thought this was interesting on Todd Blanche's Wikipedia page. In 2023, Blanche was a registered Democrat in New York. In 2024, a year later, Blanche purchased a home in Palm Beach County, Florida, and is a registered Republican voter. Registered as a Republican voter. So Trump's looking for loyalty, people. Looking for loyalty. Just a little bit more of this last clip, and there's nothing wrong with Trump looking for loyalty, as this attorney says. I just want you to listen a little bit.
Do you think having multiple people who previously represented Trump at the top layers of the Justice Department is an issue?
Not particularly. I mean, look, there's a couple of things. The Attorney General position, which I view as a very, very important position for the country, from being around criminal justice for 35 years, for being at the department for 17, I view it as a critically important job where there was great need for independence and competence. But historically, you had a president that picked his brother. More recently, you had a president whose AG said, I'm his wingman.
I'm his wingman. Eric Holder is the one who said, me and Obama are wingmans, homeboys. John F. Kennedy picked his brother as Attorney General. So, making the case that Trump, these attorneys are too loyal to him, I don't know how that's going to fly. Should be interesting to see how this works out. I do think that Pam Bondi does have some controversies, but I do believe that in light of Matt Gaetz, she may get through. I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend.